The Incantations of Daniel Johnston, a graphic novel by Ricardo Cavolo, written by Scott McClanahan. Read by me, Jordan Barclay, because I want to, as a tribute to Daniel Johnston. Alright, let's dive in. For my parents, for Laura, for Daniel, Ricardo Cavolo. For Julia, for Julia, for Julia, Scott McClanahan. Daniel Johnston is an actual person, with real-life joys and sorrows, but his life reads like a novel. I really admire Daniel, first and foremost for his ability to fight. Since childhood, he has been certain of his objective to succeed at doing what he loves, and despite receiving many setbacks, he has always gotten up and persevered. I also admire his work in and of itself. Both his art and his music have a magic that is difficult to find. Daniel does things as a child might do things, for fun, and without concern for what other people might say. Something that hinders the rest of us so greatly. His work is sincere, gritty, and pure, and that is uncommon and valuable. I consider Daniel one of my heroes. He is an example of how things should be done, and of fighting for what you love the most. That is why I decided to make this humble homage to Daniel, to thank him for everything that he has given me. This book is an affectionate thanks and a hug for Daniel. Ricardo Cavolo. The Incantations of Daniel Johnston. Beware. I don't think you should read this. I'm warning you. There are devils inside. Every moment is a miracle. Imagine the thousands of years and genes that come together to make one brain. Daniel Johnston is a miracle too. But did his mother know when he was born about the softness of a little boy's heart? Did she know about the nightmares and the hurt to come? Did she know one day he would be on MTV? See him now with his brother and sisters, and a rainbow of doom above his head. Everyone was someone's child once, remember. But wait, this is important. Daniel grew up in West Virginia and went to the Church of Christ. It was here he learned about good and evil, God and the devil, and the eyes of superheroes and the wicked adventures to come. But what Daniel didn't know was that there were worlds inside of him already. They are demons and hells inside of us all, and they're talking to us. Listen. You are a piece of shit. You are a fucking piece of shit. So Daniel decided to make things. He made 8mm films and he had fun. But there was only one thing promised to us from the Frankenstein's monster we make, and that's pain. 8mm camera. Hi, I'm a cat. It made his mother crazy and she hated it. Mothers hate having fun. He found out there were other hearts who made stuff too. Comics. There were songs and movies and motherfucking comics. They were all saying, I understand you. You are not alone. So Daniel drew his comics and dreamed his superhero dreams. He made everything he could make, because everyone who makes something is only saying, Hi, how are you? And also, beware. In high school, Daniel started drawing his eyeballs. The D stands for Daniel and the I stands for I. Put them together and you die, die, die. Hey man, I'm an eyeball. I have X-ray vision. I can see beneath your underwear. He knew there were a million eyes watching him already, and watching us all. There were eyeballs seeing what you see right now. There were other eyes too. Are you paranoid? These were the eyes. These were the eyes of the other. These were the eyes of the other world. Behold, They are watching us all now. So wait for a moment now. This is the part of the book where Daniel sees that he has to make things forever, and that the whole world is a great fever we catch from one another like a game of tag. Tag, Daniel, you're it. I like to draw eyes. For Daniel learned long ago in the Church of Christ that the first artist was God, and God made things for one reason, so he wouldn't be so lonely. Remember this, Daniel. I am Satan. You're lonely now, and you will always be lonely, but I do like your underwear. So Daniel became obsessed with the Beatles and decided to sing and play songs. He learned that when you found others, you made the second best word that starts with an F. The word is friends, and together you can sing about joy, happiness, not being nervous. I hate being nervous. His family didn't approve of his superhero world, but maybe it was because they couldn't see that his mother and father were superheroes too. And Daniel would need their saving soon. But what did Daniel do? He didn't need cool, and he didn't need the faraway cities. He only needed his own bedroom. He made it the factory of his mind. There is nothing more amazing than the bedrooms of our childhoods, or the room we are sitting in right now. Clean up your room, Daniel. Ricardo Cavolo, 2011. So Daniel graduated high school and decided to go to college and make things. There were a million things he could make, and now like eyeballs and skulls and frogs. Frog fun fact number 12. I shed my skin almost every week, and then I eat my skin. Yummy. Daniel's arms tingled, though, and his brain raced. Something felt wrong. But Daniel had already heard the song of his life from long ago. It's the first song that everyone hears. Shh. Listen. It's the beat that beats from our mother's heart. It's singing. You are loved. You are amazing. And it's the song that allows us to fight against our monsters. At college, Daniel started making tapes of the people he knew and recording his life so it wouldn't be lost. He believed he could save himself by making things, but he was wrong. He was really wrong. Daniel had bipolar disorder. The definition? Sometimes it's heaven and sometimes it's hell, and sometimes you don't even know. Sometimes the stomach leaped like wee. The one day Daniel fell in love with a girl named Lori. He wrote her love songs and revealed his heart without knowing that love had another purpose. Love was a killer sometimes. Oh, Lori. Because Lori loved another, her boyfriend worked at a funeral home. So one day Daniel came into the funeral home and climbed inside an empty coffin. He saw us all becoming one with another one day. In the coffin, Daniel could see that perhaps we only truly love what doesn't love us. Mysteries, mysteries, mysteries. So he made songs about suffering, and he made songs of pain, and the songs said, "Don't be afraid, Daniel. Don't be nervous." Songs of pain. Don't be scared. The what of whom? There were songs about the devils in his head that spoke so quickly they went yip and jump and woo-wee. So let us travel now through the guts of Daniel Johnston. Watch out. I think I see some poop. Wow. So after Daniel dropped out of college, he lived with his brother, Dick. Dick tried to help Daniel get started again. He recorded music in Dick's garage, and worked at Astroworld, still thinking that he could save himself. The River of No Return. Astroworld. Recording, yep, jump music. But then Dick kicked him out and he lived with his sister, Margie. He kept trying to save himself, but he still couldn't see. He couldn't see. We can only save one another without knowing it. We save one another so we can sing our songs. So Daniel Johnston bought a speeding motorcycle of love, and since his family didn't approve of his dreams, he took off and joined the carnival. He ran away from the world. But did he really buy a speeding motorcycle? The carnival. Did he really travel the country with a carnival and get his butt kicked for taking too long inside a porta potty? Did he really sell corn dogs above a poster that said, "Come in and see the incredible and maniac depressive singer and artist Daniel Johnston, selling corn dogs alive"? Who cares? Because he did inside this book. He moved to Austin, Texas, and saw a sign that really said, "Welcome to Myths, the place where we can be what we are not." Welcome, Austin, land of the opportunities for the underground, music and comics. No kidding. So he started making copies of his music, and he gave them to people. But if someone wanted a copy, Daniel had to go home and re-record the whole album. He made homemade magic drawings. Fuerza y color en las manos, handmade style. Con él en las manos. He knew that all somebody could do in his life was this: hope and pray. Hope and pray. It's what makes us alive. So Daniel gave his tape to a local band named Glass Eye. He just wanted somebody to hear his song and tell him he wasn't alone. He took the name Glass Eye as a sign of some sort. Put D with the I, and you die, die, die. So Glass Eye let Daniel sing and play his songs on stage and show his heart and become who he truly was. In front of an audience, he became what we all are. He became a hoping machine. He made hamburgers at McDonald's and served them to the public. He wished his wishes and prayed his prayers. He wished he could be on MTV. So let us pray. Dear Father in heaven, please let Daniel be on MTV. But then the Daniel on page 37 had forgotten about the little boy Daniel on page 7 who learned, "Lay not up your treasures in MTV." I repeat, lay not up your treasures in MTV. Because the things we hope and pray and wish for sometimes destroy us. Dreams are dangerous things. So stop for a moment. They are the voices inside your head shouting, "You are a piece of shit. Go kill yourself." But let's forget about these voices for a moment, because guess what? Daniel's on MTV. Holy shit. Daniel's on MTV. Turn it up. He held up his tape for the camera and said, "I recorded this while I was having a nervous breakdown." And we all laugh. Daniel decided to play the guitar even though he didn't know how. He decided to risk failing, and the audience cheered. Can you hear them now? Listen. After he played on MTV, Daniel became the most famous McDonald's employee in all of Austin. Fame, I win. But even the most famous McDonald's employee in Austin still has problems. You are a piece of shit, Daniel. And you're a piece of shit too, reader. Fame. Daniel decided to do what anybody does when they're on MTV and the most famous McDonald's employee in Austin. Daniel took a fuck ton of acid. He didn't take drugs because of being lonely or his parents not accepting him. He did it because taking drugs is really fun. But then one night, Daniel physically assaulted his manager with a lead pipe. So if you think the story is a cute mixture of mental illness and art, then imagine Daniel beating your ass with a lead pipe. Daniel went to the mental hospital, and there wasn't anything fun about it. It was just another prison like our minds. So his friend Jeff Tartikoff became his new manager. This is a picture of Jeff's. Heart with a frog inside. Hey, that's not real. Jeff's heart. Stress records. He helped Daniel out of the mental hospital. But now Daniel was heavily medicated and the songs weren't coming. Daniel found out that half of all people with his condition will attempt suicide, and half of those will succeed. They jump off buildings, they blow their brains away. The evil number, 6 from 666. The good number, 9, being the opposite of 6. They kill themselves in front of their children, and there's nothing romantic about it. Carpenters are bipolar too, but it doesn't help them build better houses. Come down. It's just a big dumb brain death that feels like a bunch of nothing. You should stop reading this now. I'm warning you. Daniel's creativity. So Daniel lost an entire year because of the medication he was taking. He even stopped playing music. But Daniel still knew a secret. It was his sorrow, but it was also his strength. So Daniel's family tried to hold him up, but the holes in the ground kept pulling him down and down. Who would win? While Daniel was lost in the pills, his manager worked to make him popular and cool, because no one thinks someone is cool unless someone tells them so. This is called culture. Daniel Johnston. There are elements of culture that come only from the tiny glass boxes of cities. So when Daniel was strong enough, he went to New York to be discovered. Daniel knew that we only read the poets of England because the British Empire conquered the world. This is called the history of art. So Daniel met all the important people of the New York underground scene, and he was told they were cool too. This was called making it. He met Kramer from Shimmy Disc, and he was cool. He met Sonic Youth, and they were cool. This was called going into debt. He met Jad Fair, and he was cool. He met Mo Tucker, and she was cool. Daniel Johnston gig. So Daniel stopped taking his medicine before he performed because he wanted the performance to be better. He knew the whole world was about making you normal. And this is called psychology. And so this is one of Daniel's secrets. Daniel knew his condition was just something he had caught from long ago, like a fever. And this fever can be spread. This fever can be spread even through the reading of a book. Guess what? You have lost your mind. You're becoming Daniel. You are God. So you take your fever and spread it throughout the city of New York and watch others start to catch it. You get arrested by the police because you painted Jesus fish inside the Statue of Liberty. No Jesus fish allowed. You stand in front of a New York audience and they hear you play and sing. You remember the old stories you studied about performing miracles and hearing voices. We call this religion. After one of the gigs, there was an argument with Sonic Youth. The art kids ask you to leave, and you keep talking about the devil. There are rumors of you playing a gig at CBGB and getting kicked out of a homeless shelter. You wander the city and remind yourself about the truths of the world. If you're a 13-year-old girl from a long ago and heard voices, they called you Joan of Arc. Today, they call you crazy. So Sonic Youth finally found you in a glass station in New Jersey. They tell you you're not welcomed anymore. This is what they call success. You have finally lost your mind. Go kill yourself. Of course, there were good things that happened in New York too. He met Jad Fair because guess what? Light attracts light. Jad asked Daniel how it felt to be cult famous. Daniel knew that cult fame was no different from any fame. It was all baloney. They end up slicing you up and selling you in packages. Guys you don't even know, like Ricardo Cavolo and Scott McClanahan, write graphic novels about you 30 years later. They sit around trying to figure out what to write about. What to write above a picture of you dressed up as a superhero and holding a keyboard in your hands. What should I write? I'll write this. Facts. After Daniel left New York, he went to record with Jad Fair in Maryland. But this is the trick of biography. We write down the sequence of events because we believe the person who wrote about the events before us. And these are called sources. On the way home from recording with Jad Fair, Daniel got off the bus at a stop in West Virginia, and he wandered the street at dawn. He wasn't taking his medicine, and he was seeing Satan everywhere. An old woman shouted at him for making noise outside of her apartment window. So Daniel charged up the stairs of her second-story apartment because Daniel saw Satan inside, and he was going to throw the bastard out. Fucking Satan. The old woman was so scared of Daniel, she jumped out the window of her apartment and broke a bunch of bones. So they put Daniel back in the mental hospital. Daniel sat and wondered why everyone was mad. He was just trying to help her. He told his manager a bunch of ideas he had for his career. I want the Beatles as my band. I want to sing for Mountain Dew. Woo-hoo, Mountain Dew. And Daniel knew only this. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. I tried to help the old woman with Satan, and she didn't even thank me. Daniel saw that much madness is divinest sense for those who see it, and nobody could see it in him like Jeff Tartikoff. Jeff Tartikoff got him a gig playing South by Southwest in Austin. Daniel stopped taking his medicine a few weeks before, so the show would be good. Daniel laughed that Satan would have his revenge now. He only played 15 minutes, but Daniel spread his spell. What the audience didn't know is that they weren't seeing a performer give something to them. Daniel was taking something from them too. So Daniel was taking what he needed from his audience, like a vampire. After the show, on his way home in his father's plane, Daniel started reading a Casper comic book. There was a spell around Daniel too. The bad things are coming. The more he read the comic books, the more he thought he was Casper. In the comic book, Casper jumped out of the plane in a parachute. So Daniel went crazy. He took the key out of the ignition and threw it out the window. The wind whooshed woo. He wrestled the controls away, and they started to spin. The engine is silent now. Shh. Crash. Somehow they survived, though. How? Daniel's father wrestled the controls back at the last minute, pulled the plane out of the spin, and crashed into the trees. Daniel threw his arms in the air and celebrated how much fun it was. Because Daniel believed in the spell we call our lives. We have so much to look forward to. Really? Are you really happy? Daniel wasn't. We believe our father is our father because our mother tells us so. We say I love you and mean I'm going to the store now. We get together with friends and record for Shimmy Disc. We join our tribe and worship what we worship. We know nothing. Artistic Vice. Shimmy Disc. So skip ahead a few pages and forget about all the bad things that happen in life. Maybe you can still be spared from the bad things that await you. Daniel was in a mental hospital, and the bad things followed him too. Kurt Cobain wore a Daniel Johnston t-shirt without knowing about Daniel being damned. Bad things happened to Kurt Cobain too. If he hadn't worn the Daniel Johnston t-shirt, he would be alive today. Hi, how are you? So when Daniel was in the mental hospital, Jeff Tartikoff started to negotiate with various record companies to get the best recording contract. They were all competing for Daniel. Jeff negotiated a contract to protect Daniel as an artist for the rest of his life. But Daniel didn't want the record contract Jeff suggested, because the band Metallica recorded for the same label. Daniel thought if he signed, Metallica would come and kill him and rip his arms and legs off. He didn't want to support Satan and the Satanists, Metallica. So go ahead and skip forward and forget about the bad things to come, because the story has become a sad story. This is now a story of heartbreak. Why? Daniel fired Jeff Tartikoff. Daniel hired a new manager named Tom, who signed him to a different label. Sometimes the real devils wear a smile. Tom wears cool clothes, see? So skip ahead and let's pretend that Daniel didn't sign a bad contract and record a mediocre album. Let's skip to the next page and forget that Daniel's sound of love from long ago was all gone and Daniel had forgotten something. He'd forgotten that long ago song we all hear, the song of our mother's heartbeat beating in our baby ears. But Daniel had learned a different song that life teaches us. He had learned, we are alone. We are all so alone, always. Of course, the album was called Fun, and it was a failure. The mythology of Daniel Johnston said it was a bad album and wasn't fun. But was it true? Have you heard it? Oh, how we assume to write the life of another. This is called history. How we assume to draw the life of another and place him inside a picture of a castle with his music in one hand and his drawings in another. So after recording Fun, Daniel continued to make things at his parents' castle of a home. Look, the sky. There are clouds of Daniel and clouds of our lives, and we all ask, what does it mean? What did it all mean? But of course, our answer is always a blank one. So let's leave the bubble blank above the picture of his music and art. Let's just tell you that Daniel met artist Ron English, and Ron made things too. Daniel and Ron helped to spread Daniel's drawings throughout the world. But was this moment any more important than anything else? Was it any more important than what Daniel's favorite breakfast cereal was when he was a little boy? Who knows? So we lead Daniel over here and say this was your life. These are the people you knew, and these were the buildings full of flames, and here was the Statue of Liberty. This was you. But did his mother know the softness of a little boy's heart? Did she know about the nightmares and the hurt to come? Did she know what he would see at Weston State Mental Hospital in West Virginia? No lyrics. Oh, Lori, what has happened to you? We only know this. You'll never be as young as you are right now, or the people you know. And there are no answers for any of us, and we remain mysteries to one another. And we remain mysteries to ourselves as well, for every story told about someone else is about the person who is telling it, like Scott McClanahan, like Ricardo Cavolo. And since we only have a few pages left, maybe it's time to tell a happy story. Fuck the bad things. Let's do what everybody does. We can pretend. We'll tell a happy story about how Daniel's brother Dick became his manager, and his father traveled with him to visit faraway places. He took his songs to Europe and Japan. Fuck nervousness and the voices inside. We'll say that Jeff Tartikoff continued to buy Daniel's art, even though they were far away from one another, and Jeff's heart was mended. Fuck the voices inside of your head. We'll say that Daniel's art started to be shown throughout the art galleries of the world, and through the love of his parents and the proper medicine, Daniel conquered his devil. Now the devil laughs. Ha, ha. So fuck death. Daniel became more famous and achieved his dreams of long ago. So let's tell a happy story with happy pictures about how Daniel fought his devil and won. Let's tell a happy story with happy pictures about how Daniel's life was made into a documentary by Jeff Furzig. It played at film festivals and made Daniel famous. It was called The Devil and Daniel Johnston, and it told a happy ending story too. After a showing of the film, Daniel reunited with his love, Lori, and they were able to talk about their long ago lives. And so let's tell this happy story with a happy picture of Daniel and his parents at peace. But guess what? It's all a lie. There will be no happy endings waiting for any of us. They are only the stories we tell ourselves about shooting stars in the sky. Because what if Daniel was right about Satan and the voices inside his head? What if the voices were real? What if he was drawing and singing the truth about being damned? So this book is damned, and now you are too. Because Satan has been working inside these pages. So you think you've been reading a book about better times, but you're wrong. You've been reading a curse, and with each page, you've allowed the curse to enter into your heart. And so at the end of this book, you are no longer you. You are possessed, and even Daniel can't save you. You think you're in control of your life, but you're not. You belong to him. Go forth and save him. All hail Daniel Johnston. Terrible things await you. You have just finished a curse called The Incantations of Daniel Johnston. It was written by Scott McClanahan. The illustrations were drawn by Ricardo Cavolo. It was published by $2 Radio in the year 2016. A plague is now on the land. End of The Incantations of Daniel Johnston by Ricardo Cavolo and written by Scott McClanahan. This has been an audio recording by me, Jordan Barclay. Did this because I want to as a tribute to Daniel Johnston, who is no longer with us anymore. May he rest in peace, and I hope you enjoyed this. This was fun to do. Alright, I'll see you some other time. Until then, I'm out. Peace.